Welcome, viewers and listeners, to the Health Revolution, the program that shows you how to have a life of vibrant well-being. In a world full of noisy health trends, we bring you clarity. In a sea of fads, we reveal the science-backed strategies that truly work. We explore physical strength, emotional resilience, and mental mastery. These are the keys to an enriched life. Join us for inspiring interviews with champions who conquered life's health challenges, fueling your journey. Are you ready to unlock your potential? To live with vitality and purpose? Then join the Health Revolution. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, health and fitness expert, speaker, and a mom who understands. Let's embark on this transformative quest. Together, we're about to change the game, starting now. The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Welcome, everybody, to the Health Revolution. We are excited that you are joining us today. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and we are so proud to be a show that covers and encompasses all things health and wellness, the physical piece, the emotional resilience, and of course, the mental mastery. That's how we're able to optimize our life. And no matter which way you're tuning into us, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button. We want to stay connected to you. Don't forget that at the bottom of our show episode, note that you see at the bottom of your screen, there's a tab. There will be important and relevant information to today's episode, which I am thrilled to dive into because so many people in society struggle with chronic pain. And so this episode was really important to cover how to combat chronic pain for good. What are the tools that we can utilize and tap into that can get to the heart of the matter and get rid of this pain for the long run? My guest today is someone who is extremely versed and brings the experience. This conversation is going to be good for anyone who is suffering from any type of chronic pain that just debilitates you. First, take a look at this. Let's get to know her. Meet Erin J. Dominick, a seasoned muscle recovery specialist and pain consultant who has dedicated over 17 years to helping others manage and overcome physical pain. For the past 8 years, Erin has honed her skills in muscle recovery, focusing on reducing pain and improving quality of life. She understands the challenges that come with chronic pain and the impact it can have on daily life and overall well-being. In addition to her work as a therapist, Erin is also skilled in nutrition and massage, providing a holistic approach to health and recovery. Today, we get to talk about how her methods can help others move better, feel better, and live a more pain-free life. Erin J. Dominick, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm looking forward to this conversation because chronic pain can be so debilitating in so many different ways. Can you define what that means and what areas in life do we notoriously suffer from chronic pain across the board?
Absolutely. Chronic pain is actually defined as any pain that you've had longer than 8 weeks. That's not very long. Acute is less than 8 weeks. The most common chronic pain is actually low back pain. 80% of adults at some point in their lives will experience a low back pain that is chronic. People typically tend to just try to live with it, take medication. I'm too busy. I don't want to deal with this right now. I don't have time to deal with this right now. So that chronic situation exacerbates.
You know, and it's wild to me that this is such a commonplace in society. How did that come to be this way? What are some areas that it's important to highlight and remember that are just part of our lives, or maybe some areas that are culprits that we don't recognize as contributing to chronic pain?
That is an excellent question. We all know sitting at our desks is one of the biggest culprits of low back pain, but sleeping positions, leading a sedentary life Monday through Friday, and then jumping into some major activity on the weekend, being a weekend warrior. We see a lot of injuries, a lot of accidents from that lifestyle. We also see headaches being a chronic, a lot of upper back problems. We see a lot of wrist and hand problems. A lot of this stuff can honestly, unfortunately, be traced right back to phone usage.
So you're more like cell phones, and so since the rise of less than 30 years ago, so that was an influx. So I'm curious, what got you into muscle recovery? What was the backstory behind that?
That is I love that question. So I got into healthcare about 17 years ago, and I thought I would work with kids. Kids are great. They're so much fun. I did a rotation through an ortho rehab, and I fell in love with it. Absolutely fell in love with it. Became my passion. And over time, I recognized there is a huge quality of life that can be gained or lost due to pain. People try surgery, they try drugs, they try a lot of different things to try to get that back. And so I kind of made it my mission to figure out, gosh, if surgery doesn't work, and it doesn't always, actually, sometimes it exacerbates the problem. So what was the answer? And being a student of kinesiology, the study of muscles, I came back to my roots, and I found that movement is key in healing, and it's key in really getting rid of pain. And then I started studying that more, and I found inflammation and good inflammation versus bad inflammation, and really
the difference between the two. What would you say that they are, good and bad?
So, and when I say good and bad, inflammation, it's not necessarily good anyway around. However, if you are building muscle, and it doesn't matter if you are lifting weights to PR to build that muscle, or if you have been sedentary and now you need to get that muscle back, you're going to have inflammation. The muscle tears a little bit, builds that inflammation, the body comes in and then heals that muscle to make it a little stronger. Then you come in, you tear that muscle down a little bit, inflammation sets in, so the body comes in. So that's what we would consider beneficial. That is a healing, that is a building in our bodies, beneficial. Not beneficial inflammation is the inflammation that we have from stress, cortisol release, chronic pain, right? Because if the second half of that inflammation is not happening and the healing is not happening, that inflammation just sits in there. And that has really been linked time after time after time to cancer, strokes, heart attacks, multiple diseases. So when we look at inflammation, we want inflammation. We just want the second half of that inflammation to build our bodies better.
And as you talk this way, I hear that level of protection that it can serve a role. Where did things take a turn? Where did, we should have taken a left turn at Albuquerque, but then suddenly It's where did the trend start to change has this always been the case in your studies, or is it something that we're just having more conversations now we're paying attention to? What are you seeing in terms of trends? What have you noticed?
That's honestly, I think it's always been underlying. I think there's just been a lot more research. I'm a very scientific mind. I have to have the evidence, back it up with the research. And I have seen more and more studies. I have seen more and more interested minds really looking at this. I honestly think in 10 years, it's going to even increase from there. I think we're making some fantastic discoveries out there as far as inflammation, healing, the way our bodies work. I think the interest has always been there. I just don't know that we've had the ways to discover more.
How are so with studying, the conversations are increasing. Do you find that there's a greater level of optimism as alternatives to how we've handled chronic pain in the past? Do you feel like it's increasing? Do you feel like it's increasing? It's not increasing fast enough? Is it more slow developing, or?
I'd love to see it overnight just explode. I think if we go back to the opioid crisis, that was a definite springboard. Okay. We started really looking at alternatives because 20 years ago, we had brand new drugs on the market that, oh, hey, this will take away your pain. But we didn't really look at the long term of that. And when we started seeing that, it was a springboard. We started looking at massage therapy. We started looking at physical therapy. We started looking more, gosh, what can we do? So I think with that launching us, now the sky's the limit. Sky's the limit.
Who is the most surprising? Which group is the most surprising that is having bouts of debilitating chronic pain? Which one has been the shocker out of all the groups that you've seen?
The biggest shocker to me is that we are seeing an exponential increase in 20-somethings coming in with real pain. Again, upper back pain, lower back pain, headaches, from a different lifestyle that has been led in previous generations. We're much more computer-based now. The other thing that we see with that generation is they play harder. They're out there on the football field and their expectations, if you will, are higher. Parents want the kids to have scholarships, and the way you get scholarships is to be the best. And sometimes those young 20s, late teens get pushed really hard and it hurts their bodies.
So in that case, do you think it's very polarizing that they go night and day from going extreme to then moving, like not moving at all, moving like a sloth, moving like a snail?
Yes.
So, okay. So
we see more video games as a stress reducer, lots of TV usage. And so when you go from playing so hard to sitting so hard, it definitely makes a difference.
So I heard one report, and I don't know how old it is now, but it was a few years back, that said 67% of the workforce sits for 4 hours or longer at a time, at any given time. What are things that you're seeing for those who just whose job responsibilities don't allow them to move a whole heck of a lot?
Yes, and because that is another very surprising group of people that we see. We actually see them aging more quickly. We see illnesses, diseases, and injuries in late 30s, early 40s that we would typically see in a much later age bracket. There are ways to combat that. I think we're all told, oh, set an alarm, get up every 2 hours. There's just days that you can't. There's just days you can't. And I think if you change the way that your desk is set up, you change the way your calendar is set up, there's some very small changes that people can make to improve how we sit at our desks. Because I also saw a very, very similar number to that, 67%, that are actually at their desks longer than 6 hours at a go. Some people skip lunch, some people skip dinner. And when you are in one position repeatedly over and over and over, it's actually lightly considered a repeat injury.
So what my expectation is for someone who sits for a long period of time that I could see how they could have back pain and then maybe carpal tunnel because sitting in front of a desk. What are some other situations that are associated with sitting that we don't know? In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, so if we sit too long, perhaps hip flexors are feeling it. Is there anything else that maybe are affecting the musculoskeletal system? Just anything?
Absolutely. Everything in the hips. The psoas, which is the large muscle between the lower half and the upper half, that gets tight. When that gets tight, everything kind of gets affected from that. All of those deep 6 hip flexors, those get tight. That affects our low back. Then as we move our way up the back, people tend to develop a forward head or down or up posture. You get headaches. You get a lot of internal rotation from sitting at a desk because everything is here. When that happens, that is actually related to kind of some of those older injuries that we see in an older population. We see a lot of shoulder problems. We see a lot of neck problems. With that forward head posture, depending upon how many inches forward you are holding up to 40 pounds with these little teeny tiny muscles back here. So when you're sitting at a desk and you're internally rotated and your head is down or it is up and it's forward tilt because you're trying to lean into what you're working on, all of that is affected. As far as your knees and your feet go, that is even affected by long-term sitting. If you are not sitting with your hips at 90 degrees and your knees at 90 degrees, your knees will actually be put in a compromised position and shearing can happen. So most people don't realize, but they will move their feet, a little bit under the desk. And if you are not at that 90 degrees, that's when that shearing happens.
And I can only imagine that it's such a subtle change that it's not something that one would say, oh, I'm shuffling my feet, I'm no longer in the right spot. But then over time, so then there's no telling when the body is having an issue in that particular example, would you say?
Absolutely. Our bodies will always find the path of least resistance. Always. That's what we're built to do. So if you are sitting in your chair and you buy a new chair and all of a sudden your knees are not quite at 90 degrees or your hips aren't quite at 90 degrees, the body will compensate, which is mind-blowing and so cool that the body will just adapt. But when it adapts and it compensates, it's typically not in the most productive way. So if your hip is uncomfortable and you shift your leg to the right, all of a sudden you create maybe some internal rotation or some abduction on that leg. You don't realize that you're stretching ligaments, you're pulling muscles. All of a sudden, everything kind of gets out of balance. And that's over time when we start seeing big problems.
And I can only imagine that it's hard when things become so far down the line, it's hard to discern and pinpoint or gauge where the source of, like, say, the pain discomfort is coming from.
Yes. I was just working with a woman not too long ago, and she had one hip that was really, really tight. And I thought, gosh, we went through her lifestyle. So I went to her house and I was evaluating everything. And I said, okay, let's sit down at your desk. And she crossed her legs. And I went, okay. So then I said, okay, let's go upstairs and just talk about what we found. And she immediately crossed her legs. And then I said, do you drive or does your husband drive, like when you're together? And she said, oh, my husband always drives. And I said, do you cross your legs in the car too? She said, I cross my right over my left all day long.
Wow.
And from that, she just had, I mean, she was so tight. And that's why she kept repeating, because that was the path of least resistance.
That's incredible. Wow. We're going to take a commercial break. This is a great conversation. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this.
Hello, fitness enthusiasts. Welcome back to Fit Bites with Adriana. Today, let's stretch our minds and bodies as we delve into the world of flexibility. Now, why is flexibility so important? Well, it's not just about touching your toes or doing a perfect split. Flexibility is crucial for maintaining a healthy, functional body. It improves our range of motion, reduces the risk of injuries, and makes everyday activities easier and more comfortable. So, how can we become more flexible? Well, first, incorporate stretching into your daily routine. Now, whether it's a quick stretch in the morning or yoga session in the evening, make it a habit. Now, don't forget about dynamic stretches before your workouts to prepare your muscles and static stretches afterward to cool down and increase flexibility. And remember, consistency is key. Flexibility takes time to develop, so be patient and keep at it. Now, lastly, listen to your body. Never push into pain and always respect your limits. So let's embrace flexibility, not just in our bodies, but in our approach to fitness and in life. Now stay tuned for more Fit Bites, and here's to more flexible you.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Welcome back to the show. My guest today, Erin J. Dominick. She is a muscle recovery specialist, and we are talking about how to combat chronic pain and do away with it as for good. And so, Erin, before the break, you were talking about different scenarios in which how we move in life can impact us, where we don't catch it in real time, but then over time it becomes a chronic issue. And I want to dive into some of the more serious issues that do stem from chronic pain that we can turn things around. Before today, I know you and I talked briefly about lymphedema, and I can only imagine how many viewers who are watching right now that are fighting debilitating back pain. But talk us through some of how you approach the more serious chronic issues, and what are some misconceptions about those?
Okay, so I would love to kill the myth that I hurt my back, I'm going to bed. Worst possible thing you could do, aside from sit-ups. But if you have back pain, going to bed tightens everything down. It just cramps everything up in there. Walk. Walk, walk, walk. If you have pain, walk. Do not fake it till you make it. There is no such thing as no pain, no gain. There's good soreness. That's that beneficial inflammation we talked about. But pain is not good. If you are ever experiencing sharp shooting, stabbing, any pain that ever, those are micro injuries. So I was actually lifting weights with a girlfriend of mine. We were at the gym, and I just don't think we were as focused as we should have been. And she went down for a deadlift, and she got it just above her knee, and she stopped and she dropped it, and she was like, and we've worked out for years and years. And even with someone who is very experienced, those injuries still happen. So catch it when it's acute in that first 8 weeks.
You know, when you bring up the scenario of I threw my back out, I'm going to bed. You know, the first thing that I think that is likely going through that person's mind is, if I lay down, I'll relax, and the relaxation will make the pain, maybe the spasm, what have you, calm down. And so what do you say to that scenario if that's the frame of thinking that somebody has?
And that would be the normal place to go to. If I hurt, I should rest. Absolutely, you should rest. Movement with rest is much better. If you lay down, that back has less support. Typically, most people are going to lay and not move. And then it's just the sitting scenario. You're just doing it in bed. So those muscles aren't getting any movement. The ligaments, the tendons, all that stuff is getting tighter and tighter and tighter because it's not moving. So I love to tell people healing is a full meal. Most of us know RICE, rest, ice, compression, and elevation when we have an injury. RICE is super important. The other side of that plate, though, is MEAT, movement, exercise, analgesia, and therapies. It takes two.
I've never heard that before, the MEAT.
No? Okay.
I'm learning something new today.
You know, studies have gone back and forth as to whether or not RICE is even still applicable. It is absolutely a proven, decades-old, research-backed help for pain. The ice from RICE is an inflammation decreaser.
So for our guests, and I'm sorry to interrupt, for our viewers who are watching, when is it applicable to apply RICE? Or I'm sorry, when does the ice part of RICE is applicable? Some people will have a question about heat and ice, and can you distinguish the two?
Yes. So ice decreases inflammation and decreases the pain. Heat relaxes the muscle. So in those very first 72 hours, ice, ice, ice. 20 on, at least 20 off before you put it back on, no more than 20 on. I usually tell people 3 times a day in that injured area. So RICE, that first 72 hours, that's that real, get in there, kind of let everything keep moving, but we need to let that rest decrease inflammation. Compression, if you still have an ACE bandage or a biocompression unit. Elevation, if it's low enough to get it up, that also helps decrease that swelling. After that 72 hours, really dive into that meat. Movement, flexibility. That doesn't mean jump right back into deadlifts and back squats. That means take a couple days, build that flexibility up. Obviously, something was missing when you injured yourself. So really think about what it was that injury during that time. Try to make sure that you are building that flexibility piece, because that is an absolute injury preventer. When you are jumping into that meet, move slowly. Start with walking, start with yoga, start with Tai Chi, swimming, a lot of those less impactful exercises. Therapy. There's a lot of great therapists out there that are more than happy to give some strategies to heal.
You bring up something that's I picture two scenarios: the unintentional injury and maybe the accidental injury. So the unintentional, I'm moving in a certain way, and then suddenly, whoops, I don't know what happened, but I guess my movement deviated from how I was supposed to move. And then the accidental injury where there's trauma to the body, but like no major injury. So I remember, I'll just share with you and the audience. So our beloved Shadow, our German Shepherd, one day I was going down the stairs. I had a basket of laundry, and in his hurry to run out, as I took my step, he took me out, and I literally went ka-thunk, ka-thunk, ka-thunk all the way down. After a few moments of potty mouth, I remember crawling, because it was bad. I remember crawling to the freezer in the kitchen, and I was trying to tell myself, let me just grab something. And I just remembered we had a sheet of like a cooling blanket we got somewhere at a 5K that they were giving out. And I remember sitting on that for a good bit of the day. My husband might say I sat on it like the whole day, but I was swearing and sitting on it. And so I don't remember intense swelling, but the bruising, the discoloration, it took a long time to disappear. And so, what I do remember is I didn't want to be too extreme with my movements, but it was something that, and I didn't break anything. I was fine. It's just the way I landed was thankfully, it was minimal. But for something in the case of the accidental injury, such as what I just mentioned, what are some of your best practices for approaching that?
That right there. However, I would say really 20 minutes and then remove that ice.
Okay. I think I sat on it for an hour.
Okay. So there is some research that suggests sitting on ice too long will cause a rebound swell effect, but that obviously didn't happen for you. So that's good. I would suggest ice right away, just like you did, right away. Exactly what you did. Kind of take it down a notch or two, get back into that flexibility, kind of, stretch everything out. Again, if you encounter that sharp shooting, electrical, stabbing pain, stop, back it off just 1/4 of an inch, just enough to still get that stretch in there. I would also recommend, in your situation, I would have recommended taping. A lot of people don't recognize that K-tape or rock tape, any of those tapes will actually reduce bruising.
Well, I got to tell you, I landed on my cheek. So I don't know if
it honestly still would have helped.
Okay. I'm trying to visualize that, and I just, so good to know. And I remembered I was afraid that the swelling was going to be extreme. So I was just, I had the wherewithal at that moment to do that. In the case thank you. So in the case of something more extreme like lymphedema, I know that you and I talked some about that. Can you talk a little bit about, for viewers who don't know what that is, and how that lends itself to the experience of chronic pain. And
Absolutely.
what do you find is most effective in dealing with a condition like lymphedema?
Lymphedema is extreme chronic swelling, and it's typically due to injury of your lymph nodes. We see it often in people that have breast cancer surgery because those nodes need to be removed. We see it in car accidents where the nodes in the knee get disrupted. The most common thing that we see is someone that goes in for back surgery and those lymph nodes get injured or destroyed. At this point in time, there is things on the horizon, but at this point in time, if you injure, disrupt, or destroy your lymph node, they don't come back. So you get extreme swelling. With that swelling comes pain, toxin buildup. You get a lot of really sad symptoms from getting those lymph nodes injured. When that happens, unfortunately, not all doctors are quick to recognize it. It usually impacts movement, so people will stop moving as much. So then they kind of start putting on a little bit more weight. The doctors will tell you, oh, you just need to lose weight. And they're thinking, I can't move. I hurt. I'm swollen. So there's a little bit of some misconnect often with diagnosing lymphedema. When a doctor does get someone diagnosed with lymphedema, either through trauma, family history, or a surgery, we usually will use a compression device. And it's fabulous. It kind of does this nice, light little massage, and it pushes all that fluid up into the body where the other lymph nodes can kind of take the waste out and the toxins. We use that compression actually in athletic recovery as well, kind of part of that RICE. And honestly, for lymphedema, for chronic injuries, that compression it's one of the most incredible healing techniques that we have.
How serious can lymphedema become if it's not addressed properly? And is there a gap between what we know that many doctors currently provide and what a patient can do with their level of proactivity? I know it's kind of like a loaded question when I
That's okay. That's okay. Honestly, let's take the first part of that question. Lymphedema can get really severe. You can have your skin kind of crack open, wounds, no movement. So people end up laying in bed because they can't get up, they can't move. When your legs are enormous from swelling and they hurt so much to move, walking is out of the question. So you can go from 0 to stage 4 in a couple of years. It does happen slowly with most people, and it is such a quality of life stealer. It doesn't necessarily impact or give you a terminal diagnosis, but it definitely steals that quality of life. So yeah, I mean, lymphedema can cause a lot of problems, marriage problems, all kinds of bad things. On the second side of that, when we were talking about kind of more, I ask that second part of the question again. Let me make sure I understand.
The connection, I was thinking more of like what the bridge between like how doctors are approaching it and, and how patients, the level of productivity, just the gap between the two. So the diagnosis, maybe prognosis, and then, in terms of where it can go, Because obviously, being optimistic, we could say that the sky's the limit, story developing on, depending upon how much of energy is to address the situation. But in terms of, I'm wondering more of the gap between what we know now and how doctors treat, and then where patients can turn things around with more innovative approaches.
So first and foremost, I would just like to tell everybody, lymphedema or no, listen to your bodies. You know your bodies better than anyone else does. When you start feeling something's wrong, listen to that. It may not be a constant, oh, something's wrong. But when you start having, gosh, I think my leg's moving different, or, I think I'm a little swollen, journal it. If you're waking up with a headache every day, journal that. It's good to just be paying attention to our bodies. Then
we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to continue right after this. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this. Thank you so much for watching The Health Revolution. Our show is growing, and it's all thanks to viewers like you. No matter how you found us, please hit the subscribe button so we can stay connected and continue to deliver amazing content to you.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been showing that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
And now we want to give special thanks to Biomed Mobile IV for sponsoring the Health Revolution. Biomed Mobile IV is Colorado's top mobile IV therapy service, servicing throughout the state of Colorado. They offer an array of vitamins and above and beyond safety preparation. Biomed Mobile IV, your dedication to health and wellness is exactly what our show is all about. And we thank you for your support. Welcome back to the Health Revolution. Today we're talking about how to combat chronic pain and make it go away for good. My guest today, Erin J. Dominick, she's a muscle recovery specialist. We were talking about some of the proactive measures that those who suffer from chronic pain can utilize. And, one thing that comes to mind is, do you ever find, Erin, and do you ever find that people struggle with how much power they truly have in terms of resources, maybe choices, maybe they're hearing that they're experiencing a condition that appears dismal, and then suddenly things are looking bleak, not quite sure where to go. How much power does someone who's in chronic pain truly have?
More than they realize.
Okay.
More than they realize. There are so many groups out there. There's so much research out there. Unfortunately, in this day and age, we have to be our own advocates. We have to take control of our healthcare, our bodies, our just general health. And they do have the power. They do really have good resources out there that can help with that chronic pain. Unfortunately, it's not given to us. We do typically have to find it.
Talk a little bit about your VME. So we're going to bring up the slide, and obviously, so talk a little bit about your company and some of the different the space that you hold, and your goal and your mission.
Fantastic, thank you. Originally, we started out for lymphedema. Breast cancer was a big deal to me, and I really wanted that to be my focus. During that journey, I started finding that due to insurance and all kinds of things out there, people do not have access to therapists. They don't know where to find therapists. Their insurance doesn't cover it. Their doctors, they're on and on and on. And I started having people come to me knowing that I was in occupational therapy for so long and asking for help. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Those are people that are taking control. So we started branching into therapy and making sure that therapy is available for people that do have chronic pain, back pain, knee pain, shoulder pain. All of those things are typically fixable. You just have to know how to do it. So a group of therapists and I came together to prepare programs to teach people how to heal themselves. And then they don't have to have repeat doctor visits. They don't have to depend on drugs. And most importantly, they aren't going to pay $50 3 times a week for co-payments to come see me for me to fix them. If you fix yourself, you have the knowledge, and then it's a lifelong gift.
So these programs, how far reaching are they? Is it in person or is it online? Talk a little bit about that.
All of the above. We know that people learn in different ways. I have used these programs, and I have trailed them for years and years and years before turning them loose to the public. It is very important that we gave everyone a platform. We make sure that there's a community, because when you're in pain, a lot of people say, oh, you're fine, just get over it, take a Tylenol. It helps to connect with other people in pain. When you are trying to get out of that pain and you're learning how to do these movements, we have videos, we have the written word, we have one-on-one support. We have therapists that you can have a complete package with that will walk you through every step if that's what you need. We have worked with people that are very DIY. Nope, I've got this. I don't need, I just want to do this on my own time. No problem. Here's your package. Just let us know if anything comes up. And then we have some people that really need a lot more detail, a lot more camaraderie and support. And so we just try to make it available to everybody in every platform that they need.
So, so what I'm hearing, it's almost like you're teaching somebody how to fish versus giving them a fish.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
And I think it's a proactive way, obviously, and then they have to, one of my favorite sayings that I heard is the participation in your own rescue. So there's that, I wish I came up with that. I did not. But the fact that when we have to participate in our own rescue, that means we're taking our power back. So I love the concept of putting one foot in front of the other, learning, but then there's that emotional investment in, okay, I'm watching, I'm measuring my progress to see where it will continue to take me.
Yes. Yes. And the most important thing is, let's just use a back injury. Most of the time people have a distinct life and they move the same way. And so you get them fixed and then we build all those muscles back up and everything's great for 2 or 3 years. And then you kind of stop doing those exercises and you move on to something else. But those lifestyle habits that brought that back pain are still there. Don't come back to me. Get out your book, get out your videos, fix yourself again. Because that's what it's all about. Like learning, taking control, This is our body. We only get one. So make it count.
Exactly. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back after this.
Hi, this is Clara Capano, your host for Women Winning Their Way, where we talk about how you can create success all on your terms. Join us Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Limelight Network here on E360 TV.
Welcome back to the Health Revolution. We've been spending quality time with my guest today, Erin J. Dominick. She's a muscle recovery specialist. And Erin, you've brought so tremendous information and things for us to take in and apply. Where can viewers find you on the internet and on social media?
Thank you for asking. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. And always, you can find me at my website.
And do you have anything coming up for 2024 that's just event-wise on the horizon, things that you are looking to finalize? What can you share with us for the rest of 2024?
For the rest of 2024, I am just really focused on making sure that this word gets heard and that people really learn how to fix their own bodies.
If there's one message you want to give to the viewer who is having mixed feelings and just like, I'm feeling, I have so much pain and I don't know if you know my journey and that sort of thing, what would you want to tell him or her?
I may not have walked in those shoes, but I have walked next to those shoes. I have a lot of clients that walk in those shoes. Trusting someone is a big step. And I understand that part. 100%. Talk to me. Let's find out what stopped you in the past from getting better. And let's talk to some people that have gotten pain-free and get you some good knowledge. And whether you use our product or you go to a PT or you decide to stay with a doctor, give us a call, because we are not just all about us. We truly want to help people make informed decisions.
I absolutely love that. One last question that I want to ask you is, for the space of muscle recovery, what is one goal you would love to see crushed and conquered in the near future?
Ooh, gosh, so many things. I would just really like to crush the goal of getting people moving. There are studies out there that show that walking, for some people that have certain diseases, disabilities, it's actually more beneficial to walk than it is to run. Move. I just would love to see people move, get up from their desks, set that timer, even if it's a 2-minute stretch, even if you take a call standing up, just move.
Absolutely. Erin J. Dominick, muscle recovery specialist. Thank you for your time, your energy, and the value that you bring to this very important conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. This has been fantastic.
Yay! And for all our viewers, of course, you can find us on the internet. Our website is thehealthrevolutiontv.com. You can always email us for any show ideas that you would love for us to conquer. And of course, in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, you will see our QR code. If it's easier for you to catch that, then please feel free to do so. And then, of course, let's not forget, we are on the Achieve TV channel on E360 TV every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, every single week. That is all the time that we have. Until next time, take care of yourselves. We will see you soon.